Beneath London's bustling streets lie secrets, and souls that never left. Ghostly whispers echo through empty tunnels. Phantom footsteps follow the living. Some tube stations aren't just stops, they're haunted time capsules, where the past refuses to die. Tonight, we descend into the darkness to uncover the 10 most haunted underground stations in the UK, and the terrifying true stories behind them. If you dare, keep watching. But be warned, you might just hear something behind you in the dark. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers before September 1st, 2025. Hit subscribe now and join our ghost hunting community. Every click brings us closer to uncovering more haunted secrets. 1 Bank Station, London. Bank Station in London is one of the creepiest places on the underground, with real ghost stories that send shivers down your spine. The station is very old, built in the 1800s, and many believe it's haunted by the dead. The most famous ghost here is the Black Nun, a sad spirit who wanders the tunnels. Her story goes back to the 1800s when her brother was hanged for forgery at the Bank of England. She wore black mourning clothes for the rest of her life, and after she died, her ghost started appearing near the station. Workers and passengers have seen her floating in dark corners, her face full of sorrow. Some say they hear her whispering or crying late at night when the station is empty. Another scary tale is the ghost of a workman who died during the station's construction. People say his spirit is still trapped underground. Workers have heard strange knocking sounds, like someone hammering in the walls, even when no one is there. Some have felt cold hands touching them in empty passageways. A few brave souls have even seen a shadowy figure in old-fashioned work clothes, watching them before disappearing into the darkness. But the scariest thing about Bank Station is the phantom footsteps. Late at night, when the station is closed, security guards have heard the sound of heavy boots walking behind them, but when they turn around, no one is there. Some say it's the ghost of a soldier from World War II, still patrolling the tunnels. Others think it's the spirits of people who died in the station long ago, unable to leave. The station is also built on top of an old plague pit, where thousands of bodies were buried during the Great Plague of London. Many believe the dead beneath the ground make the station a hotspot for paranormal activity. People have reported sudden drops in temperature, ghostly voices, and even the feeling of being pushed by unseen hands. Bank Station is not just a busy transport hub, it's a place where the past never truly rests. If you ever find yourself there late at night, listen carefully. You might just hear the whispers of the dead. 2 Fairington Station, London. Fairington Station is one of London's oldest and most haunted underground stops, with a dark history that lingers in its shadows. Built in 1863, it was part of the world's first subway system, and over the years, many tragic deaths have stained its tunnels. The most famous ghost here is the Screaming Spectre, a woman whose cries echo through the empty platforms at night. Her story is heartbreaking. Back in the early 1900s, a young woman threw herself onto the tracks after a terrible heartbreak. Since then, passengers and workers have heard her desperate screams just before a train arrives, as if she's reliving her final moments. Some say they've even seen a pale figure in an old-fashioned dress standing at the edge of the platform, only to vanish when someone gets too close. But she's not the only lost soul in Fairington. The station sits near the site of Newgate Prison, where hundreds of criminals were hanged in the 1800s. Their restless spirits are said to haunt the tunnels, especially at night. Workers have reported seeing shadowy figures moving along the tracks, their faces twisted in agony. Others have felt sudden chills or been pushed by invisible hands. One guard swore he saw a group of ghostly men in ragged clothes shuffling through a closed-off passage, their chains dragging on the ground, just like the prisoners who once walked to their executions. Another eerie presence is the Whistling Watchman, a ghostly figure believed to be a former station worker who died on the job. Late at night, when the station is silent, a faint whistling tune can be heard drifting through the tunnels. Some say it's the same tune an old night watchman used to hum while making his rounds. A few workers have even seen an old man in a faded uniform standing on the tracks, staring blankly before fading into the darkness. The worst part? Fairington Station was also built over a mass burial ground from the Great Plague. Thousands of bodies lie beneath it, and many believe their spirits never left. People have reported ghostly moans, sudden gusts of icy wind, and even the smell of rotting flesh in empty corridors. Some say the dead grow angry when construction disturbs their resting place, tools go missing, lights flicker, and some workers refuse to go into certain tunnels alone. Fairington Station isn't just a place to catch a train, it's a doorway to the past, where the dead still walk among the living. If you're ever there late at night, keep your eyes open and your ears sharp. You might hear the whispers of those who never left. 3 Bethnal Green Station, London. Bethnal Green Tube Station holds one of London's most tragic and haunted histories. During World War II, this ordinary station became an underground shelter protecting families from German bombs. But on March 3, 1943, terror struck when a crowd rushing to safety caused a deadly crush on the stairs. 173 people died that night, mostly women and children. In what became Britain's worst civilian disaster of the war. Their screams still echo here today. Workers report hearing ghostly sobs and panicked shouts around the entrance, especially on foggy March nights. Some have seen shadowy figures of women clutching children, their faces frozen in fear, only to vanish when approached. The worst spot is the infamous staircase where the tragedy occurred. Late at night, cleaners refuse to go near it alone, reporting sudden temperature drops and the feeling of invisible hands brushing past them. One guard swore he saw wet footprints appearing on the steps with no one there, perhaps from the rain that fatal night. But the saddest spirit is the crying child, heard by many late-night workers. A little girl's desperate wails seem to come from the walls, growing louder near the old shelter areas where families once huddled together. Some say it's the ghost of a 7-year-old victim still searching for her mother. Workers have tried talking to the voice, only for the crying to suddenly stop, leaving behind an eerie silence. The station's lift shaft holds another dark secret. In 2015, a maintenance worker reported seeing a woman in 1940s clothing standing in the empty lift, her face streaked with tears. When he blinked, she was gone. Others have smelled burning and heard air raid sirens when no drills were scheduled, echoes of that terrible wartime past. Even passengers report strange experiences. Some feel sudden dread when entering, while others claim to hear faint voices whispering, "Mind the gap," when no announcements were made. The station's memorial garden, built to honor the victims, sometimes has fresh flowers appear with no record of who left them. Bethnal Green isn't just haunted by ghosts, it's haunted by memory. The terror of that wartime night seems etched into its walls. Next time you pass through, listen carefully. You might hear London's darkest hour whispering back. 4 Covent Garden Station, London. Covent Garden Tube Station hides chilling secrets beneath its busy platforms. Built in 1907, this station has witnessed so much death that many believe its walls hold trapped souls. The most famous ghost is an actor named William Terrace, murdered nearby in 1897. His spirit haunts the station, appearing suddenly in mirrors or drifting through empty corridors. Workers have smelled his old-fashioned cologne and heard phantom applause when no one's there, perhaps echoes from his final performance. But Terrace isn't the only ghost here. The station's lift shaft is a hotspot for paranormal activity. In 1955, a lift attendant died there in a terrible accident. Since then, late-night workers report seeing shadowy figures near the lifts and hearing the machinery operate by itself. Some have felt icy hands touch their necks when standing alone in the lift. The worst is hearing ghostly whispers saying, "Going down," when the lifts are switched off for the night. Passengers report strange things too. Many have seen a pale woman in Victorian clothes standing at the end of platforms, staring blankly at incoming trains before vanishing. Others hear unexplained sobs coming from the ladies' toilets, staff refuse to clean them alone after midnight. Some visitors feel sudden sadness when passing certain spots, as if the station's tragic history is pressing down on them. The deepest tunnels hold the darkest secret. During World War II, the station served as an air raid shelter. Workers report hearing air raid sirens and smelling burning when no drills are happening. Some have seen ghostly families huddled together in dark corners, their frightened faces lit by unseen fires. The most disturbing reports come from engineers working in the old tunnels. Tools go missing, voices whisper names, and some swear they've seen skeletal hands reaching from cracks in the walls. Covent Garden may look beautiful, but its ghosts remember the pain. Next time you visit, watch the mirrors carefully. You might see a face looking back that shouldn't be there. The station keeps its dead close, and they don't always stay quiet. 5 Elephant and Castle Station, London. Elephant and Castle Tube Station has a darkness that lingers in its tunnels. This busy interchange hides terrifying ghost stories that make even daytime travelers feel uneasy. The station was built in 1890, and its long history of accidents and tragedies has left behind spirits that refuse to move on. The most common sighting is the Grey Lady, a ghostly nurse who wanders the platforms. Her story dates back to World War II when the station served as a makeshift hospital during the Blitz. Many patients died in those dark tunnels, and some say the nurse still tends to invisible patients. Workers have seen her bending over empty benches, as if checking on someone who isn't there. Others report smelling antiseptic and hearing faint moans of pain in deserted corridors. But the nurse isn't the only ghost here. The station's winding passages are home to something much darker. Maintenance workers tell stories of a shadowy figure that follows people through the tunnels. It appears as a tall man in a long coat, always staying just out of sight. Those who've seen him say he has no face, just a black void where his features should be. Several workers have quit after encountering him, terrified by the overwhelming sense of dread he brings. Some claim he's the ghost of a man who died in the station's construction, buried alive when a tunnel collapsed. Passengers report strange experiences too. Many feel sudden chills when waiting for late-night trains, as if someone, or something, is breathing down their necks. Others hear whispers coming from the empty tracks when no trains are approaching. The worst spot is the southbound Northern Line platform, where people report seeing ghostly hands reaching up from the tracks. Some even claim to have been pushed from behind, only to turn and find no one there. The station's history of violence adds to its haunted reputation. In the 1970s, several brutal crimes occurred in its dimly lit passageways. Workers report hearing phantom screams and the sound of running footsteps in closed-off areas. Some have seen bloodstains appear on walls, only to fade away moments later. The station's ghosts seem trapped in their moments of terror, reliving their final, painful memories over and over. Elephant and Castle isn't just a station, it's a place where the past never dies. The next time you're waiting for your train, look carefully at the shadows. You might see something looking back. The dead here don't rest quietly, and they don't like being ignored. 6 Alwick Station, London, closed. Alwick Station stands frozen in time, its abandoned platforms whispering with ghostly voices from the past. Closed since 1994, this forgotten stop on the underground has become a playground for the dead. During World War II, the station served as a shelter and storage for precious artifacts from the British Museum. But something else found refuge here too, spirits that never left. The most famous ghost is a woman in a blue dress, seen pacing the dusty platforms. Her story is tragic. She waited here every night during the Blitz for a lover who never returned from war. Staff who ventured into the closed station report hearing her heels clicking on the tiles, followed by soft crying that seems to come from the walls themselves. Some have seen her reflection in dirty mirrors, her face streaked with tears that never dry. The station's tunnels hold darker secrets. Film crews using the location have reported equipment failing without reason, and voices whispering when no one else is around. One camera operator swears he captured a figure standing at the end of a platform. A man in 1940s military uniform, who vanished when approached. Others tell of sudden temperature drops so extreme their breath turns to fog in the stale air. The worst is hearing phantom air raid sirens in the dead of night, growing louder until they suddenly cut off, leaving an eerie silence that feels worse than the noise. But the most disturbing reports come from the old shelter areas. Security guards doing night checks have heard children's laughter echoing through empty corridors, followed by the sound of running feet that stop abruptly. Some have seen handprints appearing on dusty surfaces, small ones, like a child's, with no living person to make them. The station's old ticket hall is said to be haunted by a former worker who died on the job. His heavy footsteps can be heard pacing above, even though the upper levels have been closed for decades. Alwick's ghosts seem trapped between worlds, replaying moments from their lives like a broken record. The air here feels thick with memories, of wartime terror, of lost love, of lives cut short. This isn't just an abandoned station. It's a graveyard of unfinished stories, where the dead still go about their business long after the living have moved on. The next time you pass its boarded-up entrance on the Strand, listen carefully. You might just hear the ghosts of Alwick calling from below. 7 British Museum Station, London, closed. British Museum Station may have closed in 1933, but its ghosts never left. Hidden beneath the busy streets of Bloomsbury, this abandoned station is said to be one of London's most haunted places. The station was built right next to the British Museum, and some believe ancient curses from the museum's artifacts followed people down into the tunnels. The most famous ghost is a tall Egyptian man in old-fashioned robes. Workers in the 1920s reported seeing him standing silently on platforms, his face wrapped in shadows. When approached, he would vanish into thin air. Some say he's connected to the museum's Egyptian collection. Perhaps a spirit angry at his treasures being taken from their homeland. The station's dark, winding tunnels hold even scarier secrets. During World War II, the tunnels were used to store museum treasures. Night guards reported hearing strange noises, like stone scraping against stone, and whispers in languages no one could understand. Some swore they saw statues moving when no one was nearby. The worst reports came from workers after the war. Tools would go missing, then reappear in strange places. Some claimed to feel icy fingers touching their necks in empty passageways. Others heard heavy footsteps following them, but when they turned around, the tunnels were completely empty. Passengers who used the station before it closed told strange stories too. Many reported seeing ghostly figures in old-fashioned clothes standing on platforms, only to disappear when trains arrived. Some smelled strange perfumes that made them feel dizzy. Others claimed to hear chanting coming from the walls, like ancient prayers being recited over and over. The station's lifts were especially haunted. Several people reported seeing a pale woman in Victorian clothes standing in the lift corner, her eyes filled with sadness. She would vanish when the lift doors opened. Today, the station is closed but not quiet. Urban explorers who've sneaked in report feeling watched the entire time. Some hear whispers coming from dark corners. Others capture strange shadows in their photos that weren't there when they took the picture. The most chilling reports are of cold spots that move, as if invisible spirits are walking right through people. British Museum Station may be forgotten, but its ghosts remember everything. They linger in the darkness, keeping secrets we'll never understand. The next time you walk down Museum Street, remember, deep below your feet, the past is still very much alive. And some of it might be watching you. 8. South Kensington Station, London. South Kensington Station may look elegant with its beautiful tilework, but beneath its polished surface lies a world of ghostly activity that chills the bones. Opened in 1868, this station has seen countless passengers pass through its arches, but some never truly left. The most commonly reported ghost is a Victorian gentleman in a top hat and long coat, seen pacing the District and Circle Line platforms late at night. Station workers call him the Professor, believing him to be the spirit of a 19th-century scientist who died suddenly on his way to the nearby museums. His apparition appears most often near the tunnel mouths, where witnesses report seeing him checking a pocket watch before vanishing into thin air. Some have even heard him muttering about being late, his voice echoing strangely as if coming from far away. But the station's underground passages hold darker secrets. During World War II, these tunnels served as shelters during air raids, and many believe the terror of those nights left permanent scars. Cleaners working early morning shifts report hearing children's laughter suddenly turning to screams, then silence. Others have smelled smoke and burning when there's no fire, as if the station remembers the bombs that fell nearby. The worst reports come from engineers working in the service tunnels. Tools go missing, whispers call their names from empty passages, and some have seen shadowy figures ducking around corners just out of sight. The station's connection to the nearby Natural History Museum may explain some of its stranger hauntings. Several staff members have reported seeing what looks like large, unidentifiable animals moving in the darkness at the ends of platforms. One night guard swore he saw something like a giant bird, far bigger than any living creature, flap its wings in the shadows before disappearing. Others have heard strange scratching noises coming from the walls, as if something is trying to dig its way through. Passengers experience odd things too. Many report sudden temperature drops when waiting for late trains, especially near the old-fashioned wooden benches. Some feel invisible hands brush against them in crowded areas when no one is nearby. Others see fleeting reflections in the station's many tiles, faces that shouldn't be there, appearing for just a second before fading away. The station's famous tiled corridors seem to hold echoes of the past, with visitors occasionally hearing snippets of conversations in old-fashioned English, or catching the faint smell of gas lamps when all the lights are electric. South Kensington Station keeps its ghosts well-dressed and proper, just like the neighborhood above. But don't let its polished appearance fool you. This station remembers every second of its long history, and some of those memories refuse to stay buried. Next time you're rushing through its tunnels, slow down for just a moment. You might hear the whispers of London's past rising up through the tiles beneath your feet. 9 Highgate Station, London. Highgate Station hides a darkness beneath its quiet platforms that few passengers notice. Opened in 1867, this deep-level station has tunnels that plunge into the earth like stone fingers, carrying more than just trains through the darkness. The most famous ghost here is the Tall Man, a shadowy figure seen standing at the very edge of platforms, his face always turned away. Station workers say he appears most often on foggy nights, his long coat fluttering as if in a wind no one else can feel. Those brave enough to approach say he simply isn't there when they get close, just a cold spot left hanging in the air. Some believe he's the ghost of a railway worker who fell onto the tracks in the 1890s, his body never properly recovered from the deep tunnel where it landed. But the station's connection to nearby Highgate Cemetery brings even stranger hauntings. The tunnels run disturbingly close to the cemetery's ancient graves, and many believe this has opened a door for spirits to wander. Passengers report seeing pale faces pressed against train windows as they enter the station, faces that vanish when the train stops. Others hear whispering from empty seats, words just too quiet to understand. The worst is the graveyard train, a phantom service some late-night workers claim to have seen. They describe an old-fashioned train with blacked-out windows that sometimes appears in the station after closing, sitting silently at the platform before disappearing into the tunnel without a sound. The station's lift shafts hold their own horrors. Several workers have reported seeing a woman in a tattered white dress standing in the lifts, her hands covering her face. When the doors open, she's gone. Others hear the sound of something heavy being dragged up the emergency stairs late at night, accompanied by labored breathing. But security cameras show nothing. The station's old service tunnels are avoided by maintenance crews after numerous reports of tools being snatched from hands by invisible forces, and the sound of children giggling in pitch-black passages where no child could possibly be. Highgate's deepest secret may lie in its abandoned tunnels. Urban explorers who ventured into closed-off sections describe an overwhelming feeling of being watched. Some have photographed strange misty figures standing in disused passageways. Others tell of hearing a ghostly choir singing hymns in the distance, perhaps echoes from long-forgotten funeral processions passing between the station and the cemetery above. Highgate Station doesn't just connect parts of London, it connects worlds. The next time your train stops here at night, look carefully at your reflection in the window. You might notice someone standing behind you who wasn't there when you boarded. The dead here don't stay buried, and the station's dark tunnels make the perfect path for them to walk. 10 Notting Hill Gate Station, London. Notting Hill Gate Station hides ghostly secrets beneath its colorful neighborhood. By day, it's just another busy tube stop. But when night falls and the crowds disappear, something else walks its empty platforms. The station's haunted reputation began in the 1950s, when workers first reported seeing the Grey Boy, a child in old-fashioned clothes who appears near the eastbound platform. His pale face stares at passengers before he vanishes into the walls. Some believe he's the ghost of a boy who became lost in the station's labyrinth of tunnels during construction in 1868. His small handprints sometimes appear on dusty surfaces, and cleaners report hearing a child crying in areas where no one could possibly be hiding. But the boy isn't the only spirit here. The station was built over plague pits from the 1600s, where thousands of disease victims were buried in mass graves. Many workers refused to go into certain tunnels alone, reporting sudden waves of sickness and the smell of rotting flesh in spots where no explanation exists. Some have seen shadowy figures crawling along ceilings like spiders, their limbs too long to be human. The worst reports come from engineers working on the tracks. Tools go missing, voices whisper names in the dark, and several have reported seeing skeletal hands reaching from tunnel walls as if trying to escape. The station's wartime history adds more ghosts. During the Blitz, these tunnels became shelters for frightened families. Now, late at night, security guards hear phantom air raid sirens and the sound of running feet. Some see ghostly families huddled together on platforms, their clothes old-fashioned, their faces terrified. When approached, these figures fade like smoke. The ladies' bathroom is especially haunted, with numerous reports of taps turning on by themselves and a woman sobbing in locked stalls. When staff break down the doors, no one is ever there. Passengers experience strange things too. Many report seeing a tall man in a 1940s suit standing too close to platform edges, only for him to disappear when trains arrive. Others feel sudden cold spots or hear their name called by voices that don't belong to anyone around them. Some capture ghostly figures in photos, blurred faces peering from tunnel mouths or shadowy shapes standing behind unsuspecting travelers. Notting Hill Gate Station may sit beneath one of London's prettiest areas, but its underground world belongs to the dead. The next time you visit, watch the shadows between the trains. You might see something watching back. These ghosts don't mean harm, they're just lost, confused, and forever trapped in the station's endless tunnels. But that doesn't make them any less frightening when they decide to make their presence known.